How did it get the word pod? Did people cast from their iPod?
It's still called that even though nobody uses iPods anymore.
Shall we begin?
Shall we? Let's go.
Welcome to the Men Who Stare at Cups from Phoenix Ridge. I am Drew Littlejohns.
I'm Brian Wright.
And we are, in fact, the men who stare at cubs. Stare at cubs.
Cubs?
Like bears?
We still stare at cubs.
I'm the man who stares at bears.
I like that name. It sticks.
It does.
The YouTube channel is called initiate.me.
Yep.
But
so
we like to call ourselves the Men Who Stare at Cubs. It's a play on the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats.
That's right.
Yes, it is.
And shout out to all of our boyo fandom out there from which we derive our origins.
This is true.
So today what we are talking about is the glorious liberation of the working class, because the rich have decided that they don't need us anymore because they're building AI, which means that the working class can finally be free of trying to please an overlord, and we can just make the future we want to make. The great libertarian communities of the future.
Is that how this works?
Yes, the 1% making AI to provide for themselves actually frees us.
Does it now?
It does.
To live a tribal agrarian lifestyle?
Well, only if you find tribal agrarian lifestyles and toiling meaningful.
Right. Otherwise, what's your option?
You can starve to death in a Amazon factory.
Okay. All right.
Options?
I mean, Amazon is pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to order things, at 3 a.m. and get them on time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, But I guess I like food.
You like food?
I like food.
Okay. So yeah, that has been the big thing that I've been thinking about lately, which is, does the idea of the dystopian, like AI creating everything, like they say that all like 60% of all jobs in America will be obsolete in 20 years. And for some reason, people think that this is like a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the fact that the man is making ways to provide for the man's lifestyle without necessarily stealing it from you.
Right. I remember reading a Robert Anton Wilson book. I don't know if you're familiar with that guy at all, but he was a bit of like a futurist optimist, amongst other things.
Huh, that's an oxymoron.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was very optimistic about AI, and it's back in like the 70s or whatever. I mean, and he was like, automation we should be looking forward to that. We should be looking forward to losing our jobs, and then actually he was borrowing that, I think, from Buckminster Fuller. He was somebody who was saying that, like, we should be aggressively trying to create this technology that can liberate us from toil in that sense, and then we can figure out how to live our lives.
And Alan Watts was a huge fan of AI.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird to me, but he was a big fan of AI. Now, a lot of the people on the kind of lefty hippie sphere, they really want AI to work because it will drive, people won't have to work. Human beings will share in that productivity because we will all somehow generate universal basic income, and then we can all just become artists.
Right. Or like when you live in Alaska, you get like the oil subsidies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So, and which is really awesome, because the best art I have ever produced and the best art I have ever seen has always come from a place of complacency and laziness. I mean, it's always been the thing it's those Saturday mornings, when you're like, back when I used to drink, so you're like slightly hungover, you're like feeling a little bit depressed because your dopamine is out of whack. But then you get that universal basic income check and you go, boom, now I'm going to make some art.
All right. Facetious much?
So
I have actually made great things on a lazy Sunday.
You have made great things on a lazy Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? Is that poo art? Like you kind of like you know, take a crap in a toilet,
like,
take a picture of it, send it off as an NFT, and then you're out like
no, like I was feeling good, so I picked up my guitar and noodled around, and then got on my computer and then made a cool beat, and yeah, you know, it doesn't always have to come from struggle and toil and suffering.
look at that. Okay, so you can so great art can be derived from a place of complacency and laziness.
It doesn't have to be laziness. I mean, what if you're driven? What if because you... I mean, for some people, that could work.
Okay.
I think for some people, yes. For other people, no. And not everybody's an artist, is the thing.
So what happens with the people that get universal basic income who aren't artists?
They do the Metaverse thing. They play video games. Or they watch TV. Right?
So universal basic income... Is there any other use case other than now we will be free to make art?
So we did this before. We've done this on a podcast before where
we've never debated the universal basic income thing.
No, we have what I'm saying is we have steelmanned Klaus Schwab before.
Oh yeah, oh no, you will owe nothing and you will be happy. It's easy to steelman Klaus Schwab or taste-making Weinsteins. It's not hard to
Or some
steelman.
of the people that say, well, we need to get rid of some of these useless eaters because they have pondered that they won't actually do anything. Now, I like to have a little more faith in the human condition that if liberated, like, I mean, yeah, maybe people could live happy, meaningful, productive lives. But perhaps that won't come naturally to a lot of people. Because they're so used to their toil being so meaningless, in a sense, because they work because they have to, that once they are, say, liberated, they might be a little confused. These things might not come naturally to them at all. I'm reminded of this episode of The Simpsons where they brought these ants up into space, and the ants crashed into the wall, and then they all like start pouring out. And then one of them goes, freedom, horrible, horrible freedom. It's like, well, what is this? What is this freedom? I don't know. I don't understand. What do I do with it?
Okay.
Well, they may have been dreaming of that their whole lives. Like they might not have a clue what to do with it.
Oh, that's the idea that's the Nietzschean idea that freedom is the lowest human virtue.
Could be, yeah.
Because if all you want is freedom, then that means you are a slave.
Yes.
So I became a baseball coach recently. I am a certified Babe Ruth Association baseball coach.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I never knew I was going to become a baseball coach, but now I am. And, I grew up as like a pastor's kid, right? A lot of the sports I do are like triathlons, mountaineering. Yeah, I like to build stuff at home now. I like to write, talk about philosophy. I've never really encountered something before, and I'm going to get back to universal basic income here in a second. I've never really encountered the kind of toxic masculinity that is really jibber-jabbered about on the internet.
Okay, you mean this like thuggish, womanizing gym rat kind of thing?
I would say less gym bro and more like average T-ball father.
Okay. Oh, right.
So toxic.
Like pushing the kids.
No, like pushing them, like literally like verbal abuse from the side. At least what I would consider to be. I would consider it to be verbal abuse from the sidelines only because of the amount of humiliation heaped onto a single child in front of an entire crowd of people for an hour straight.
You're saying you've never witnessed that? Or you've...
No, I just witnessed it yesterday for the first time.
I got you, okay.
And like in T-ball, it was fine. And then we started playing some new teams. And then, some of the parents, like, you see them, like, vaping in the parking lot, and you see them shotgun a couple of Bud Lights, and then they go out there, and they're, like, screaming at their kids. Okay, so So what they're yelling at their kids about is you need to be better, right? And so they're pushing this this betterness idea. Like you can be more, you suck, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So back to universal basic income. Which the idea of universal basic income is to provide for our needs, right? It does nothing to provide for our wants.
Right.
And to me, it seems that most of the evolutionary growth that we've had as people is centered around the idea of survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Right? But if survival of the fittest is a moot point because you have free healthcare and free money, then the vote is no. We don't want survival of the fittest. We just want survival. Right? What are you going to do with all the evolutionary needs for, like, we have a need to compete with one another? Women compare themselves to one another to see who's on top, to be able to get the best mate, to provide the best and the healthiest children with the best genes.
Well, that wouldn't go away, right?
Well, it has to go away.
Why is that?
Well, because if everybody is equal, how do you decide how to compete?
Well, everybody isn't necessarily equal. They just have the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy covered as a default. So then, relatively, wouldn't there still be a hierarchy? Like, wouldn't by relativity, like, okay, yeah, we all know that we're gonna eat and have shelter, but like, what else? Won't you still be able to work and compete for bigger and better things?
You might be able to work and compete for better things, but every single year that the universal basic income thing works, the rich get so much richer because none of the profits are made because the working class is not required, right? Therefore, the 1% just get astronomically more 1%er. Like how I've swung communism for this one, or socialism, I've really swung hard to steel man some socialism here.
That's worth doing.
It hasn't been easy, but I've been binge watching some YouTube channels on socialism. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid. I've been really getting into it.
Okay.
I think that socialism is correct, except for the fact that I think socialism is anti-evolutionary.
Yeah. Well, humans aren't ants. That's usually the conclusion I come to. I like the idea of everyone having their bottom line taken care of. I mean, that's nice. Right. You're an ant?
I'm an ant.
Fuck.
I identify as an ant.
You work like one.
I identify as an ant.
All right, we're ants.
We're ants. We're not. But yeah. So I just don't know what to do about it, because if everybody's got universal basic income, nobody's going to want to work. Because there is something about suffering that drives you to chase the North Star.
Yes.
And can you get in debt below your universal basic income?
I don't know. You have no idea. Can you?
These are all just the things that I look at, and I'm like, I'm not so sure about the world that we're building, and it tends to make me think more and more and more that you have to build the community in which you want to live. But you know what the real problem about the building a community in the world in which you want to live is?
What's that?
Without, I have not yet been able to figure out how one would build a community without one of two things.
Okay.
The first is apostasy, meaning you could do something that would get you kicked out of the group and you could never return without some sort of major thing.
Okay.
Like deep exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to pay a heavy price to get in, and pay a heavy price to get out.
Okay.
Or life and death situations like war, famine, peril, that kind of thing. I've not been able to see it yet where you could build a community out of purely positive virtues.
So the community would have to be based around some kind of necessity.
Or there has to be a villain. The military exists and the Brotherhood exists because there are bad guys that want to terrorize the world.
Yep.
The church, when it used to believe in hell, which most of the church doesn't believe in hell anymore, right?
They don't?
No.
Like literally?
Like literally, yeah.
Like they just kind of cross that out of the...
Well, the church, your average person in the church does not care about or think about the idea of hell. Which means that all there is a positive virtue. And without a fear of hell, you really aren't that committed to the local parishioner, the person you're sitting next to in the pews, because you're not really afraid of anything. So you kind of like go to church and it becomes more like the Lions Club or Kiwanis or something.
Got it.
Right, or the Elks Lodge.
Sure.
So everything seems to me to be that kind of way. Now, if you look at the churches that have great community, like the Mormons. The problem with the Mormons is that if you don't go to the Mormon church, you become an apostate and you can never speak to any of them ever again.
That's pretty hard.
That's pretty tough, and that includes your family members.
Yeah.
That includes the whole show, right?
Yeah.
So you have the military, band of brothers, because you're fighting the forces of evil, literally. And you have the Mormons, which are, basically building their own government, whatever, under the religious sphere, but it's to save them and their families from going to hell, right? So my big question, I think libertarians would do great if we were under attack from communist Chinese robot dogs. The AI taking over the world and all the libertarians go out to the forest and everybody abandons their cell phones and then has to because you're going to be tracked, you know what I mean? And you got to have don't smile like you want this to happen.
I don't.
But you do.
I actually don't.
but I was talking to a guy recently, and he was like, well, look at the people in the Ukraine. There's 40 of them, and they're in a bunker. Like, life is so terrible, but their life has never had more meaning while sitting in a bunker. And I thought, well, yeah. If you want to find deep meaning in life, then go put it on the line, and then you'll care about it more.
Why do we need robot dogs in order to have a meaningful life?
You need an enemy to have a meaningful life.
What if that needs to become obsolete somehow? What if we need a new way of thinking and meaning? So we don't have to have the villains. We don't have to have the...
Because if we don't have a villain, like Dostoevsky said, we will become the villain just to shake things up.
Yeah. Shit.
What Dostoevsky said, by the way, was if you give a man nothing to do but eat cakes and busy himself with the furthering of the human race, he would just go around and basically mess that up just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
So this is the question. This is the big thing that I'm really realizing is that we're living on the ridge, right? And Brian and I are not immune to social conflicts or social misunderstandings, right? And the primary reason for some of that is that there is no sense of urgency, right? Under which to either batten the hatches or to go and attack. Right? And I don't see a way for a group to group in a powerful, life-altering, I'm committed to you no matter what kind of community sense, deep tribalism, without there being some sort of very dark villain, bad guy, or something that you're all so afraid of that you're infinitely more terrified of that than you want to have your own individuality and convenience.
Well, yeah, why would someone want the tribal thing so bad? You know?
Because they're evolutionarily hardwired for it.
Yeah.
That's the problem is that we have a biological, like, evolutionary need for like men have an evolutionary need to prove themselves and to find a position in the hierarchy where they agree that they are, and the guy above them agrees that that's where they should be, and the guy below them thinks that that's where they should be. Because that's when men are the most happy, is when all men agree as to man's position in the hierarchy. And if you can't figure it out, you fight it out, or you compete it out, and then somebody moves up or somebody moves down.
Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
And every guy is happy with this.
Mm-hmm.
He's happy with the salary he gets. He's happy with the workload because he knows where he fits in the hierarchy, and he knows where he fits. The guy above, the guy below, the guy to the sides. Everybody knows where he sits.
Yeah, authority's nice when you respect it and you can.
Yeah, and then every woman wants to shoot 3 shots, 3 social layers higher than where she was born into, right? That's the hypergamy theory. Okay.
Right.
And then this is all the things that make for things that we are evolutionarily hardwired for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you give everybody universal basic income and you remove the idea of you might starve to death, you remove the peril, and then we all eventually go into the metaverse, you remove the fear of the afterlife. Most of the things, or you go into the metaverse and then everybody can just become dictator of the universe and the hottest person alive.
I mean, maybe the metaverse would be really boring. What if people don't like it?
I think that there's not going to be a working class in the metaverse.
So what do you do?
Well, you can't do. Well, that's the whole point. How on earth could we? Now that you're here, I'm here. I'm out of coffee. I'm gonna have to get some more.
The end.
The Empire is striking back. I'm gonna go get my coffee.
All right.
But while I'm grabbing the coffee, the only question we have to ask ourselves is, what on earth would be worth fighting for? Terror. Terror is what gets people out of bed in the morning. Terror or ambition.
Okay. That's true.
Right? So when I first started building the house, it was out of ambition. Because I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
Halfway through,
Terror.
almost going bankrupt. Right? Lost 60% of the revenue of my business. Right? Like really close to bankruptcy. Even now, still very close. Right? Then I started fixing up my house out of terror that I might have to sell it. Right? And now I'm back to waking up and saying, oh, well, things are getting a little bit better, so maybe now I'll fix it up out of ambition. Okay? But I don't know how you align a community without either terror or ambition. It's a good
Well, let's just try. What else would there be?
I don't know.
You have things in common and you like to have fun. And grow together as humans who like to have all kinds of different meaningful experiences. Trying new things and holding hands and singing Kumbaya. But not always. Fighting sometimes. and resolution, tension, resolve.
All right. So in the world of whatever that is,
The Aquarian future, maybe.
okay. Pardon me while I shit all over it.
Shit all over the stars all you want.
I want you to defend it.
To defend what I just said.
Yes.
Okay.
Because here's what I'm going to say and crapping all over it. There's no accountability. There's no way of knowing what you're holding somebody accountable to, or what they can be reasonably responsible for. You can't ever do anything truly interesting because you can't expect anything out of anybody. Like, everybody's going to be, and I guess you can agree, okay, we'll all be here on this night or we'll all do this thing. And I think you might be able to live, but I don't know that you'd necessarily be happy. Or it could be that I am just too ambitious of a person who couldn't even
You're
imagine.
a very ambitious person. You are.
That may be true.
You are. Unusually so.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, didn't you once upon a time hang out at the hippie beaches?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Right, so that was an Epicurean kind of thing, right? Communal. And I mean, what level of like responsibility and meaning and ambition, and were there villains? I mean,
There was always somebody coming to. There was always the state government coming to threaten to take away the beach. Always. There was always, interlopers trying to come in and hang out where they didn't belong.
Yep.
There was people trying to come in and do drugs when that wasn't permitted. There was the Knights Templar of the beach, and this was really important. There was absolutely a guard of 4 or 5 people that were there most days, standing, holding the line, yelling at people, telling people to get in line. Oh, very much so.
Enforcers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely not open. You really had to earn it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So
because it was a privilege to be there.
Right. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been as interesting.
That's right.
Right.
So I guess, yeah. And
maybe interesting is one of the key words we're missing here. You say meaningful, interesting. there has to be peaks and lulls and valleys and
interesting. I think interesting is a interesting sounds correct to me.
Yeah. Ancient Chinese curse, may your life be interesting. Have you heard that one?
I have not heard that one.
It's a good one.
That is a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I came to with Phoenix Ridge, which is to just keep building until it's either like Disneyland or I'm dead.
Oh, okay. We getting a log ride soon?
We'll get everything. Yeah, I had plans for like a lazy river with the pool, I actually, absolutely.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, so that's kind of one of the funny parts is that either the surrounding environments are so filled with anima that it becomes interesting and a privilege, but it's not a public place. You can't just like come and hang out, and nor is it overly communal necessarily. So I find it to be challenging.
Surely it is.
With the tribal concept, because to me, there has to be a reason. I don't see any sort of successful tribalism that doesn't have Burning Man. Well, like Burning Man is a cool tribe, but because they don't actually produce anything, there's a limit to the sustainability.
Amazing sculptures and art installations.
But they do that before they go. They don't do it after.
Yeah, it keeps them busy all year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they take that stuff very seriously.
So you think that is there such a thing as an existential Burning Man? I don't think or maybe is Burning Man existential enough? Should we all just become
I mean,
burners?
Burning Man, like they burn an effigy of a person. Yeah, seems pretty existential to me.
It does to me too.
Yeah,
Correct.
and it takes place in a desert, right?
Yep.
Mm. Yeah.
But does Burning Man hold the values that you hold for daily living?
I like their tenets. Their principles are pretty cool.
Yeah.
From as far as I understand, one of the big ones is that you're not there to take because you have all of your needs met. So you showed up with a purpose. You're not there to take. You're there to give. And then everybody does that, and then it becomes very interesting because you have the gift economy. People are encouraged to go, hey, I have more than I need. Have this. Take that. And then people are constantly exchanging all of this and having a great time.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that sustainable all the time? Well, I wouldn't think so because it's a festival that people plan to go to.
Okay. So it is not a tribe, it is a festival.
I'm sure I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Burning Man guy, so I can't really speak.
I'm not either. And I do agree with you that the tenets are quite interesting.
Yeah.
I've just been trying to figure out, okay, if we're going to try to figure out the community side, it's just not interesting in the community side without there being either a bad guy or an ambition. Like, so I brought up the idea to you of trying to become the first people in the state of Colorado to get an amendment to the Colorado Constitution to have growing food become a basic human right, like the state of Maine did.
That's great.
Which is an awesome thing to rally around.
Yeah.
You get all the benefits, man. You get a goal, you get villains, you get anti-corporations, you get pro-human beings, you potentially save humanity, right? And in the meantime, you've got reasons to congregate and get together because you're trying to write this bill, you're trying to get it passed, blah, blah, blah. Okay?
That's awesome.
It's
undeniably
pretty cool. And I agree that it's a theoretical rallying point. Disingenuous for me on some levels, because while I may believe in the cause, I still would be doing it just because I want to have people to hang out with more than I care about the cause, which is true for me. Right.
That's honestly that I'm always just looking for cool people to hang out with. That's
so
partially the meaning of life right there, like I get burnt out on existential stuff as anyone should. Sometimes it's better to just fucking forget that shit. Pardon my French, like there's a time and a place for it. But to be there all the time, it's exhausting and it's just masochistic.
I find it winds up becoming really pedantic as well. It's so pedestrian. It's just so
unnecessarily intellectual
and pretty boring.
Stressful.
Yeah. There is a joy,
like being in a hall of mirrors.
Yeah.
And just blathering for all eternity.
There's a joy in waking up in the morning and knowing what you need to do today.
Yeah, absolutely there is. Times in my life where I've gone a certain amount of time without like a steady job. I almost always face that, and it's about 3 months. I can very much enjoy not having that job structure for about 3 months, and then I genuinely miss just having a default thing that I have to do. And it almost doesn't matter what that thing is. My job could be to go into a dark room and sit there and do nothing. But somebody needs me to do it, and and it needs to get done, and they're paying me to do it. It's nice to just have that rhythm.
Yeah.
It really is. Until it's not, usually after a couple years of the same thing. starts to not feel as nice. But I don't know. But it's still a thing. It's still, at the very least, at the end of the day, you can say, like, well, someone needs me to scan groceries and bag them, and I can do that.
So I have not had a structured job.
Right, you haven't.
And not one where I had to like show up consistently or whatever. I haven't had a genuinely structured job that I wasn't like the boss of in some way. Like if I showed up 30 minutes late, nobody would have cared. I haven't had a job since I was 23.
Wow.
No, 24. 24 was the last time I had a job.
Okay.
In that way.
You're 38?
38. So 14 years, 14, 15 years, I've not had some sort of... So I've had... the first 5 years of that kind of existence is really hard. It's genuinely challenging to wake up and every single day you decide what your routine is.
Mm.
So like we just moved in upstairs. We got the concrete poured. I have some landscaping I want to do on the property and some other doodad stuff, right? But I just basically got back 10 hours a day of work that I've been doing. So this morning I woke up and I realized, okay, 10 hours a day, back to you. So the next thing for me to do is basically go to the coffee shop for a couple of days, sort out my priorities, and then create a new schedule. And then I actually do my best to stick to that schedule, because if I don't force that routine onto myself, everything gets existential and dark.
Yeah, sure.
So the hardest part about not having a job is creating a schedule, sticking to it as though it is that important, like acting as if it actually matters, and then doing that.
That is difficult. Yeah.
So like in my list of things to do, like I would like to do a podcast every other day because, well, it's important. And I know that you and I can talk for an hour a day. Now, whether or not we agree to that and then we actually do that is a whole other thing. But
we should do it more. It's good for our relationship. I think.
It is good, and it's a lot of fun. And we pick up at least one new subscriber.
Sure.
Which, yeah.
Why not podcast? We're interesting, guys. I mean, there's somebody out there that must get something out of this. Why not?
Well, I get something.
Are we trying to take over the world?
I'm not trying to.
Are we coming for you, Joe Rogan? I don't think so, but.
Well, it just makes me happy.
I like it too. It's fun.
So, there's a world wherein you're building something, and that something provides meaning within the context of the group. I'll paint a new picture, okay?
Yeah.
So we're doing the podcast, and we have to do it every other day because we have to get to whatever number of subscribers, right? Because if we don't do it, something terrible is going to happen.
You treat it as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you treat it like, one day you're going to die and you're going to regret having not tried at something.
That's a good reason.
It's fair. At least it's existential terror that is probably good enough, and it perhaps is sufficient enough to keep you going.
Sure.
Like existentialism only has value if it creates enough ambition or terror to get you off your ass to go and do something. So being existentially minded without trying to get to either ambition or terror to get you to do something, I think is probably intellectual masturbation.
Mm-hmm. But with death, I find, on one level, there's a sort of comfort that, like, in the end, who knows?
Love that.
And then the suffering will be over.
Yep.
I find that kind of nice. But then there's the other side, which is like, I could die right now. Who was I? Did I do any of the it is good to have that I don't want to say dread, but just like just a quick pick me up of like, you could die right now.
Yeah.
So you need that like that fire from like death to like keep you going, but you don't want that like you don't want like complete dread, because when it's easy for me sometimes to just I don't know I have dread issues sometimes, and that's debilitating. That makes me
Yeah.
less ambitious.
Yes, the Kierkegaardian existential dread, right, which is what he identified. That's real. And that when you get into that kind of dread, it is crippling.
Yeah.
And it can kill you.
Yes.
That is the kind of dread that can take you to really bad, really dark places, and it can literally kill you. So if your existentialism is taking you to dread,
Stop.
then it needs to stop, and you need to go and do something small, like cut a cucumber, or like go do something for yourself. You are at that moment. Once you hit dread, you are now at Jordan Peterson. Clean your room.
Yeah. Same with the masculinity thing too. If you know, you're one of those people that's like, I need to be more of a man, and like that is just you're just masochistically beating yourself over.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Right.
Because that's not what a man really should be doing.
No.
So just take a baby step. I don't know.
Yeah, clean your room.
Relax.
It's either clean your room or go acquire a new skill.
Yeah.
And either one of those things is going to get you right out of where you were. What kind of skill? Any skill. Go to Barnes & Noble, and the first book you see, go buy it, and then go home in the how-to section and go try it. Yeah. Even if you don't like it, at least there's one more thing in the universe you know you don't like. So or there's one thing in the universe you think you do like. Like, either way, you've like actually progressed.
I've been juggling a lot. Juggling
is fun.
A lot.
You should do juggling as intro for the podcast.
I will.
So, you should.
I will.
So, my question right now is I think that the problem with universal basic income is that it removes terror to the degree that you can no longer utilize terror as a mechanism for communal or tribal gathering. I think it also prevents people from. I think if you provide such a large safety net, I think a lot of ambition is driven from fear of that. Right? Either you're afraid of the thing itself, or you want to climb so high above that never happens to you. But as soon as that safety net is present, I think it removes the capacity for meaningful tribal connection.
It's kind of like removing death, sort of.
It is removing death.
Yeah.
With the upload to the metaverse, yeah, it is.
Right. There's the symbolic death anyway. Like, well, you can't really fail, so. And if you're immortal, then why would you do anything? Poor Dracula, you know? That guy. Okay, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he could die, obviously, but he probably wasn't gonna.
Mm-hmm. So, what do we want to do? What do we think is meaningful enough to form a tribe around? What I was getting at was, let's say we decided to do the podcast thing. And I guess the thing I've been looking to, and I actually texted Steph about this the other day, because this is when I first joined up with the Boyos, I asked him if he wanted to do an existentialism conference, right? So this has kind of been my dream for the past year and a half or so.
That it has.
Which has been to try to get as many of the Jungian thinking boyos together in the same spot, to have everybody come together for basically Burning Man, but for like a Jung Burning Man.
What would that be like?
What would that be like? You'd get together, you would build something that's actually permanent, that would house your collective unconscious, and you would make something meaningful.
Okay, so there's a little Burning Man there.
Yeah, so there's a Burning Man-esque nature that would be more existentially driven.
That sounds fun.
With the goal of getting people into communities in the areas where they live. So you're starting kind of like the first church of existentialism. So you're actually getting together once a week. And then your goal is to get together to basically form like an AA type of idea, which is to say that you are addicted to being an existentialist. You have problems with actually, no, you have problems actually committing to doing anything and problems to actually make your life better. And so by doing that, you actually move down the path of having the group say, yes, we totally acknowledge that. I have problems with that too. And then you start committing to doing things.
I do think there needs to be more men's groups where that are action focused. Like, hey, we do this once a month.
Yes.
Yeah, and less blah 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 chatty.
So why does AA work?
Drama. Why does AA work?
Because if you don't go to AA and you're an alcoholic, you'll probably die.
Woo.
You got to remember that 95% of people who are alcoholics or some large number die of alcoholism.
They drink themselves to death?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature. And so even the people who are in AA, you don't see very many people in AA who have 30 years. People fall off the wagon after 17, 19 years. They think they're fine.
That's terrifying.
And it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like...
Hell of a drug.
Well, so my reason for saying this is that, let's say you go to the existentialist AA group. Not AA, but EA, Existentialists Anonymous, okay? You go.
Electronic Arts?
No, that's EA. Get in the game.
I am.
So you go to Existentialist Anonymous, and the reason why is because you know that if you don't have a group of guys to hold you accountable, you know that you will just sit around in an intellectual circle jerk and never actually get anything done, and you know that you will die a person full of bitterness and resentment, being angry at the man, or being angry at others who never gave you the opportunity, or you'll be angry at the people who laughed at you and called you an idiot, right? And you will never wind up taking responsibility for that which you were made to be put on this earth for.
Yeah. Existentialist Anonymous.
Recognizing that your existentialist addiction is actually a problem, not a solution.
Hi, I'm Brian, and I think too much. Except for when I don't. Then things are usually a lot better. Yeah.
It's just a thought.
Got a thinking problem.
I mean, I know a lot of people who have a... Well, okay, so we could identify it. It's not a thinking problem. What kind of problem is it? What is an overly existentialized mind? Is it some sort of... is it like an offshoot of narcissism? Is it an offshoot of... what is it? Because I have, after my time in the
struggle with purpose, isn't it?
But they don't actually want purpose, because to have purpose would end the struggle of finding purpose, and the addiction is to the struggle of finding.
Yeah, that's gross.
But that's the way that most of the existentialists are. They're addicted to the what ifs and to talking about it. And rarely is there ever a, this is, therefore I will.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Like, I don't know, was I talking to you when I said that maybe is the most suffocating comment?
Yeah.
Like, nothing is more horrific than maybe. And in the same sort of way, the existentialists, when we talk about it too much, what we wind up saying is it depends. Yeah. Or maybe. Or if I wanted to.
Maybe is very truthy, because reality is so maybe. It really is.
I think I am arguing that reality is only as squishy as you allow it to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
And the goal
truth is maybe, so you have to build yes and no.
The truth is not maybe, It's that you would prefer for the truth to be maybe, because if the truth was something, you would then actually have to do something about that.
And that is up to you, though.
It is up to you.
Yeah.
But the second you make a
That's why I say
decision,
the truth outside of you, yeah, it is.
the truth outside of you
It's
is
fuzzy.
that. It is fuzzy.
Yeah.
Because you're made to actually decide what that is.
Yeah, we get to be creators in that sense.
And I think most people would prefer to abdicate their creative throne to the gods of maybe, and I guess I'll just have some Netflix and another craft beer.
Yeah.
And then they think that because they can critique a show, that they're smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have time to be
yell at the
critiquing Netflix
football
shows,
coach.
you are a terrible existentialist. Because you are literally being critical of what somebody else actually did. When you didn't do anything.
Sure.
So while this person worked for a year on something that they did, whether it was crap or not, I don't care. You didn't do anything.
Well, then you make a funny video about how much that show sucked.
Well, that's
There you
fair.
go.
Then you at least do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that existentialist thinkers understand that when they think in existentialist ways, that the goal is to get to, and now I shall do this.
Yeah. All right.
So it's really some sort of like commitment phobia.
Could be a lot of reasons for that. Yeah. I mean, ways that I've struggled with that on occasion just have to do with, having been like on and focused in the past and just felt like I had like enough rug pulls, and enough just bad dice that it just makes it harder to get back on the
What do you mean by rug pull?
rug. I don't know, just enough things go wrong that it goes poof. Whatever sandcastle I was building,
Why would do you pull the rug, or do other people pull the rug? Does life pull the rug? Does circumstances pull the rug?
Different vectors of everything happening.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I had my rug get pulled ferociously 2 years ago when I moved to Colorado, right? 3 ginormous vectors, COVID and a couple personal things, right? All happened at the same time, and then just click, gone. I had to pick up and move, all this sort of stuff, right? In which case, I took a year to basically do not a whole lot, to think about what I did want in a new location, right? And then I actually didn't do a very good job protecting that vision. And so then I pulled the rug out from under myself, which is the funny part, right? Because if circumstances don't pull the rug out from you, you are just as liable to yank the rug out from yourself. Like your trickster kind of shadow will do that. If you have an unintegrated shadow, your shadow will will do the rug pull for you before circumstances can.
Okay.
At least that's my experience.
All right.
Which is what makes the community part necessary. Because the community will protect you from your shadow.
Community protecting you from your shadow.
Community will protect. Well, it is healthier to integrate your shadow in the context of others being around on some levels. Because if you start collapsing or breaking apart at the seams, if your universe is intertwined with others, you will not collapse into nothingness. Like Carl Jung said that when he was doing his descent into the shadows, he said that what kept him sane was that he knew that downstairs his kids were sleeping, and that his wife loved him, and that his patients were counting on him. Nietzsche, when he went into the darkness, had nobody. And
That's
so
scary.
it is scary. And if you want, and we've never talked about this on the podcast, actually, that the one thing that Carl Jung did say about the descent into darkness and going into the shadow was that other people were necessary for him to do it safely.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, first of all, not everybody has to go there to that level of extreme. And I have a lot to say about that. There's probably a lot of people out there that think they do, but they probably don't.
Hear that?
But yeah, you probably you got to have that purpose, that cohesion in your life, and other people counting on you. Like
So with the universal basic income
people
thing,
counting on you or you counting on people, that's healthy.
interdependence,
Yeah, it's good. There's codependence, that's bad.
bad. Independence, bad. Interdependence, good.
I wouldn't say independence bad.
Independence is bad.
Why?
Because if you're fully independent, you don't need anybody, which means nobody needs you, which means you're a non-person.
I think of independence as, you could get by on your own if you needed to.
No, true independence is that you get by on
You
your
don't
own.
need anybody.
Because yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, why on earth would you
You're an
choose to
island.
be? Well, it's just, why? Why depend on other people when they could let you down and you could just do it yourself? You never have the fear of being let down. You never have the fear of anything because you just fucking do it yourself.
Dark.
It's dark, but you also don't have to depend on anybody. It's
Yeah.
easy. It's
Okay, so that's an extreme independence.
which is the dependence that most people, that's the independence that most people will find themselves in basic income land. In basic income land, you don't need anyone because everything is technically provided for you.
But no, people still need to socialize. People still need their little dramas. I don't think that would go away. I really don't.
I don't think that
I
it
think
would.
maybe people are a little more creative than you think. They're not Picasso, but they'll have their people live out their stories. They're always going to do that. And they'll create problems.
Oh, I don't
That need to be
disagree that
solved.
people will create
They're great
problems.
at that.
Yes. Whatever universe that is in is not a universe I would particularly enjoy living in.
So you'd rather have real problems?
I'd rather be trying to do something that was. I guess I want to die trying to do something that's worth dying for. Like I would rather die at 80%, having not gotten it, but have gotten to 80%. Even if somebody else finished it.
Right. Something good to die for to make it meaningful to live. Yeah. Sure.
Something that makes every day interesting, makes every day worth the struggle. Give context to
Good struggle. Good suffering. That's what you need.
Yeah, there's two
We were talking about that before, the types of suffering.
Yeah,
It's like,
eustress and distress.
The
right?
dread kinds, you need to get the hell away from that.
Yeah.
But there's enough suffering in reality already, almost no matter what you do, that it's insane to go really looking for it. That's absolutely insane. Probably just don't do that. But what you want to figure out how to do is to make the suffering that comes your way worth overcoming, so that it's all very meaningful.
Well, and honestly, that's why I've always held the idea of it's better to chase down suffering. Chase the suffering you want and would like more of that kind of suffering rather than having the suffering you don't want chase you down.
Well, a suffering maybe associated with something you actually want to do.
Yeah, so exactly. So
it's going to hurt if
we want to make money doing the podcast.
Do we?
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Because we're capitalists.
All right.
So of course we want to
we're socialists now.
No, we were pretending to be socialists, but maybe we are socialists because we're going to share the revenue. We'll share revenue, okay?
Okay.
So let's say we want to make money doing the podcast because we want to get to the existentialist conference.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's say we do that, right? We choose that the suffering we want is the suffering that's involved in in making a podcast. We choose that suffering rather than choosing the suffering of working for somebody else.
Anything you want to do, there's suffering associated with it. And you got to be able to go, okay, that suffering's worth it. This suffering I can deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Suffering for the sake of suffering, it's dumb.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I find that there is without there being a negative side to things, boredom will take over and will ruin it. So terror protects you from boredom, and ambition protects you from boredom.
Boredom can be a very good thing, though. I think it's kind of like I remember being a kid and being bored. It made me more creative.
Boredom can produce creativity. That's the argument.
Can stimulate it, yeah.
I agree that boredom can stimulate. I think I'm more thinking about malaise then, or like I'm bored and I don't want
listless.
I'm bored and I don't want to be
neither here nor
unbored.
there. Yeah, I'm just kind of
Blasé, whatever, laissez-faire, status quo.
Channel surfing for 8 hours.
Yeah, last man Netflixed.
Yeah.
You know.
The Netflix.
That's the peril.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking to myself, maybe tomorrow I'll sit down and I'll finally binge watch that show or whatever. And I sit down, I turn it on, I watch it for 10 minutes. I thought maybe I'll play video games today. I tried playing 3 different games. None of them could hold my attention for more than 20 minutes.
I know that feeling.
And then you're just like, well, I guess I'll go to Home Depot and buy a new backflow valve for my sprinkler that broke, because I find that to be at least moderately interesting.
I've totally been there where, like, I had to plan to watch TV or play a video game or something, and I'm like, why can't I enjoy this? And then I'm like, wait, why is this a job? This is supposed to be, fun, relaxing shit, and then I'm having a problem with it. Well, then yeah, obviously I need to be doing something else.
Yeah,
and that's good. It
is good.
That's good.
It means that you don't need.
I like your video game strategy. It's like you don't for a really long time, and then like you finally hits you, and then you find that game to binge for like 4 days, and you're like, okay, I got it. That's all I'm doing.
4 weeks, yeah. Like I'll wait for the thing, and then I'll just
you go for
just
it.
let it go.
You make no qualms. No bones about it.
Nope.
This is happening now. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so it's just, I guess the thing that I want to bring up with this episode, the big thing is I do want to do a community.
Okay.
I think that the community has to have some sort of grounding
in summation
in terror or ambition, because otherwise universal basic income and the idea of we can all just be friends with niceness it's just insufficient to promote the kind of dopamine infused progression that we all actually want.
Gray, lazy, tired purgatory of an existence.
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing. Yeah. All right.
I could be happy. I could just have my friends in the church and play t-ball with the toxic dads, and and every single day I could put up a little bit more walls around Phoenix Ridge and slowly let my life fall into the gray.
That doesn't sound terribly gray, though. I don't know.
Well,
I know what you're saying, but
if the summation of my life is that I lived
Can I just say, if anyone happens to be listening at this point now, and it's like you're actually pretty happy, disregard all this.
Yeah. No.
Please.
Like, if you're happy and you're full of purpose, like Matt, like you're happy, you're full of purpose. Just keep being happy and full of purpose.
Yeah, don't like trick yourself into maybe thinking you're not.
No.
You might have everything just the way you need it.
Nope.
And then you could very easily start overthinking this stuff.
Correct. And I'm happy.
Like, don't do that.
I'm happy overthinking my situation.
You are.
I am. Because I do know that there is something that I do want that exists beyond what is currently available to me. Because after 4 years of trying the beach and the communist-y kind of communal culture, and then 4 years of kind of Christian kind of culty culture, I've realized that I do like the exclusive group culture.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, to be on the inner circle of the Tony Robbins touring crew, or to be a scheduler for Jordan Peterson and be on that culty inner thing, right?
It can be really nice to feel like you're part of something.
Really? Okay, there we go. So there you go. So I do want to
dark side to that too.
No, I'm not saying there's not.
There's villains everywhere, man.
But that's good.
It's good because we like villains.
We like villains because villains help us to draw boundaries.
Boundaries. Yeah.
They give you a mountain to climb and a boundary to avoid.
The muck into structured castles. Yeah.
So villains, obstacles, right? These are part of the things that you encounter that when you overcome them, your life becomes more interesting.
Maybe some people don't need their lives.
I think that most people...
And I think maybe that's okay.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
If you can live your life happy and watching Netflix with your, loving wife, and your slightly obese child, I think that is a wonderful existence for you.
I sense no sarcasm or judgment from you at all.
I think that if you want to spend your life in the pursuit of making yourself slightly more happy and not giving back to humanity.
You can't even do it. Just stop.
I don't think that it's okay.
All right.
I have a hard judgment towards the idea that...
You do.
Am I not allowed to draw a line somewhere, Brian? And say,
of course you are.
This is the kind of person that I want to hang out with.
Yeah, of course.
I fundamentally disrespect that notion that everything is fine. At the end of the day, Brian, I'm on record here saying this. I do believe in communist AI, robot dogs. I do believe that cryptocurrency is pushing us towards a libertarian dystopia in many ways. But I also believe that the socialist left-wing thing is also ruining everything. How can I believe that all of it is winning? Because as the 1% get more, that each one of those parties gets more empowered. And if you put all of the wealth into the 1% and of all three, then each party has enough money to be able to enforce all of those things. I do believe in the techocracy and the global running of multinational corporations that actually control the government. Yeah, I do believe in all of these things. So when I say that we need to find a villain, it's
kind of funny.
It's kind of funny. It's more like we're level 1 characters in an RPG and we need to pick which one of 75 dungeons we want to go in.
Yeah, it's the beginning of Elden Ring.
Well, because it's generally better to just be an NPC and sit there in the community. And I guess the reason that I fundamentally disrespect the guy who sits around and watches Netflix and he's happy with his slightly obese child, you know what I mean, and his sexless marriage. And the reason why I have a hard time with that...
You can't be that happy then.
It's not happy, it's complacent, and the world is actually not as great as everybody thinks it is. And so either we wake up a little bit, pick a battle, pick a group, decide that there is something terrifying if your group fails, because there is something terrifying if the group fails.
Yeah.
And there is something that you can do about it.
Maybe the commie AI robot dogs are kind of nice. I don't know.
Well, it's nice to have a villain that's that clear. We haven't had a villain that clear, right? The West has to keep creating them. Clearly, the Russians weren't that nuke hungry, because we went 40 years.
I'm not impressed with Russia. I mean,
I'm not either, but I'm not impressed with China either. I'm not impressed with any
Clancy
of it.
games and all the Bond movies. It's just like I'm very underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I agree. So I'm on record as saying no. It is. If you are being that way, it's the choice to be an NPC, and if you choose to be an NPC, which is a non-player character in a video game, if you choose to be that, you are giving me permission to treat you as such.
Sure.
And as such, you are not a part of the active world.
Yeah.
You are a perpetuator of the status quo.
So you let him be.
So you just be. I literally don't even have to interact with you, other than to like not accidentally hit the attack button, and now I can't buy anything from you anymore.
Yes, don't kill the NPCs.
Which is the worst thing ever, right?
I
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Well, on that note, I think we made a point.
So the point we're making is that we're going to do something. We're going to commit to something that we can actually build a community around.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's do that.
Something we actually are scared of, or actually want.
I think that the food thing is pretty good. I think that parts of Australia, they're trying to actually outlaw growing food on your property.
Yes.
That is batshit. That should scare the Christ out of all of you.
Well, you all know that cholera and E. coli come from homegrown foods. All right.
Oh, I see. All right.
We are the Men Who Stare at Cups, live from Phoenix Ridge. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Drew.
This was fun.
It was.
See you guys.
And now I have to juggle.